Make sure your vocabulary notebook is open to the new places, new faces, vocabulary words. You're supposed to be on page 202. And now you should stop and you should get out your vocabulary notebook and follow the directions I just gave. So your vocabulary notebook should be open to the new places, new faces vocab. Draw a line under number 7. Or wait, no, not number 7, number 10. Write today's date, October 2nd, 2020, and then we're going to start with number 11. There are 4 words, so Victoria, I'll let you do 2, and Aaron, you'll do the last. So Victoria, you'll do the first 2, Aaron, you'll do the last 2. Okay, so number 11 is the word immigrant. On your desk, please. Immigrant. I-M-M-I-G-R-A-N-T. Immigrant. Immigrant is a noun. In this case, a person. It is not the specific name of a person, so it is common. Immigrant is a person who leaves their native country to live in another country. So the other day we learned the word immigration, which meant the movement of people from their native country to live in another country. So the people who are a part of immigration are immigrants. Immigration is the whole movement. Immigrant is the one person that is doing that thing. So immigrant, I-M-M-I-G-R-A-N-T, it is a noun. It is a person who leaves their native country to live in another country. How would we make that noun plural? How would we make immigrant into a plural noun? Michaela? Just adding S. It would be immigrants. We only add an S to make that plural. Okay, next word, number 12, is region. Region. R-E-G-I-O-N. Region. Region is another noun. It is a place. The definition is an area or district. So a region is an area, it's a piece of land, or it is a district. Region, R-E-G-I-O-N. It is a noun, a place, and it is an area or district. Number 13 is the word ethnic. Ethnic. E-T-H-N-I-C. Ethnic. Remember, if you need me to spell a word, raise your hand, and I will do that. Ethnic. Ethnic is an adjective. Adjectives are describing words. So adjectives describe nouns. And it means having to do with a group of people sharing the same culture. So ethnic, ethnic, is an adjective. That's a describing word. Adjectives describe nouns. It means having to do with a group of people sharing the same culture. So if you want to describe an object or a custom or a person or a thing as ethnic, it means that they have something to do with a certain culture that is different from our own. Aaron, what is your question? Wait till I'm finished speaking before you raise your hand. Because if I'm speaking and your hand is raised, you're thinking about what you want to say, not what I'm saying. Okay, so what's your question?
Is that my word?
I can't hear you.
Is that my word?
Yes, remember the first two are Victoria's, the last two are yours. So yes, ethnic, ethnic, it is an adjective. Adjectives describe nouns. It means having to do with a group of people sharing the same culture. So if we're describing something as ethnic, that means it has to do with a large amount of people who have the same culture. Last word, number 14, is the word overcrowded. Overcrowded is another adjective. Adjectives describe nouns. Oh, I forgot to spell it. Overcrowded, overcrowded. That is a compound word, but there is no space. Make sure that you are not putting spaces in compound words, because then that is not the word. Some of you do put spaces between compound words. You are not spelling the word correctly if you put a space in compound words. Compound words do not have spaces between the two small words. That's why they are compound words. So overcrowded, overcrowded. It is an adjective. It describes a noun, specifically a place. And it means a place has too many people in a small area. So overcrowded, overcrowded, is an adjective. Adjectives describe nouns. In this case, it's describing a place. And it means that a place has too many people in a small area. Once you're done with that, you can put your vocab notebooks away. And then open your textbooks to page 202. Yes, Carla?
I used the dictionary in the back of the reading
The glossary?
to get the definition.
Okay, but when I'm giving them, you don't have to do that. So make sure that you're listening to me. There will be a time after the first semester, you guys will start defining words. But for this, now you can just listen, okay? After we finish Wonder and we come back from Christmas, then you guys will be getting the words from the glossary. Yes, Kingston, quickly. Okay, so you should be open to page 202. This is our short passage where we also learn a skill. So go ahead and first tell us the genre of this story, Ethan, or this passage, what is the genre of this passage? Loud and slow. Oh, your face shield's not on, so on somebody else. That's me. Michaela. What is the genre of this passage?
Textbook express.
Excerpts.
Excerpt.
Look at where the P is. It's not before the R. So it would be express.
Textbooks express.
You said it again. Look at where the P is. It is not before the ER. It is after. So that means you have to say excerpts. Please make sure that you're reading these letters in the right order. So use your finger to point to them. Use your finger to follow along. Okay, Michaela, what is the genre?
Textbook exports.
You're putting the P in the wrong place. Excerpts.
Textbook experts.
Excerpts.
Experts.
Excerpt. You're putting the P before the ER. You're saying experts. That is not the word. The P comes after the ER, so we have to look at it like this. We have to chunk it. X. You're saying this. Is the P before the ER? No. So can you say the P sound here? No, because it's not there. X. We'll chunk it even more. X. That's a soft C. C-E-R. It's a soft C. Soft C. You said hard C. Remember, I've said this a bunch. Soft C sounds like S. Can't hear you. Sir. That's one of those sounds, and when you put it all together, it just sounds like so, X, sir, X, sir. What is that word? Excerpts. Excerpts. Not experts. Excerpts. 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 Let's all say that together. It is not exp. The P is over here, so we can't say P before we say the ER. We can't. That's a completely different word, so let's all say it together. Excerpts.
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 Excerpt.
All together. Excerpts.
Excerpt.
Textbook excerpts are short notifications.
Not notification. Go slow. Use your finger. You're reading too fast. That's the problem. You're trying to read fast and get to the end. You can't do that. Put your finger underneath it. Putting it on top is harder because you can't really see. You put the words in a shadow, and it doesn't point to exactly the word that you should be reading.
Textbook excerpts are short non-fiction pieces taken from a textbook.
So, what that means is this passage that we read today would be right at home in a social studies book. It's a piece that the authors took from a social studies book. Okay, what is the text feature we're going to be looking at today, Michaela?
Primarily sources are first-person account of historic
So primary sources is what we're looking at. They're first person. What does that mean? What does it mean if something is first person? Put your pencil down. What does that mean if something is written in first person point of view? Think about point of view. We have first person, second person, third person. What is first person? Zadie?
Like you saw it right there.
Okay. Well, who saw it? What do we see when something is written in first person? Who is speaking? Is it somebody who saw the main character do it? Is it somebody who isn't the main character, who wasn't there but knows the whole story? Or is it the main character that is speaking when it's in first person? Zari.
The main character.
The main character. Guys, if you don't know these answers, don't just look off to the side and distract yourself with something so that it looks so that I think you just could answer, but you're not because you're in the middle of doing something. Listen to what the answer is. If it is in first person, that means the main character is speaking, which means you're going to see I, me, my, words like that. Like our story. My diary from here to there. Amada was the one speaking, so it said things like, I hope he's right. I still need to pack my special rock. And you, diary, we leave tomorrow. That means it is told from the main character's point of view, whether it is fiction or nonfiction. So primary sources are first-person accounts. That means the person who lived it, the person who saw it happen, is the one speaking. So that's what we're going to be learning about today, are primary sources. Primary sources mean it comes from the person who was there. A lot of you are tuning me out and like playing with things instead of listening. That's not going to help you. Some of you have some very bad habits that you've learned over the last year. You have got to get out of those habits. If you don't understand what I'm saying, don't tune me out. Raise your hand and ask for some clarification. I will clarify it for you. Unless it is, of course, because you're not paying attention or not listening. Then I'm going to get upset and say you weren't listening, because if you weren't listening, is that fair for me to have to say it again, to take the time to say it again, and all the people who were listening then have to listen to it again? No. But if it is because you truly do not understand, do not tune me out and just go off in your own little world. Ask for clarification. Okay, so now let's look at this story. Zari, please read for this passage, this textbook excerpt.
The big picture.
Wait, we didn't read the title yet.
Immigrants in the Northeast. The big picture. Between 1890 and 1914, what had been a steady stream of immigrants turned into a flood.
So what that is, that sentence right there, that is called a metaphor, where they are comparing something like people coming into America first to just a steady little stream that moves slowly. There's not a whole lot of water. So that meant they're comparing the fact that there weren't a whole lot of immigrants, but they did keep coming. But there weren't a whole lot. Well, then all of a sudden, it turned into a flood. Floods have a lot of water. Floods are fast moving. So that means all of a sudden, a ton of immigrants started coming into the country. That is called a metaphor, because was it a literal flood or a literal stream? Was there actually a stream coming to America or a flood that came to America? No. But they're using that metaphor to show how the people were just kind of coming like little by little, slowly, but steadily all the time, to all of a sudden a massive flood of people, a ton of people. Keep going, Zari.
More than 2
Not two.
million people
Not two,
arrived
sorry.
on
Not
America's.
Not 2.
More than 2 million
Sorry,
people.
it's not 2. Look at that number.
More than 12 million people arrived on America's shore.
Ethan, use your finger to follow along. I want to see all of your fingers following along. Then I know that you are paying attention and you are focusing. So find every single person, find where it says more than 12 million, and start following along. Remember, it's easiest if your finger is underneath. Then you don't put the words in shadow, you don't accidentally cover them up, and you're less likely to accidentally read the same line again or skip a line. So I want to see everybody's finger following along so I can be sure that you are paying attention. Remember, it's better to put your finger underneath the words because then you don't put the words in a shadow where it's harder to read. And it also makes sure that you don't accidentally skip a line or read a line more than once. Where's your finger, Ethan? Find where it says more than 12 million. I should see your fingers moving. If we have to do this so I can be sure that you're paying attention, we will. Okay, Zari, start with more than 12 million.
More than 12 million people arrived on America's shore.
I need to see your hand. That means if your other hand is in the way, you need to move it. Because you cannot hide from me. Keep going.
That's about as many people as living in the state of Pennsylvania today. Many of these immigrants came from countries in Europe such as Poland, Russia,
Italy.
and
Italy, that's not Italian. It doesn't have I-A-N at the end. Put it down, Ethan. Put it down, Ethan. Flat on your desk. Keep going, sorry.
Many of these immigrants came from countries in Europe such as Poland, Russia,
Italy,
and Greece. Others came from China, Japan, and Mexico.
So were all these people coming from the same place? You can show me. No, they were coming from all over the world. You need to be following along with your fingers. Scoot your chair in. This is really easy because we're going to the next page, the very top of the next page, so it's very easy to find where we are. Put your finger underneath and follow along. This may seem silly, but it's the only way I can make sure that everybody is paying attention. Don't mess with it, otherwise it's going to happen again. Just try to leave it alone. Okay. Thank you, Zari. Read next. Aaron.
Most immigrants travel by boat and arrive on.
You have to be louder so that everybody can hear at home. Because I just realized they can't follow along if they can't hear you. So you have to be louder, like yell.
Most immigrants travel by boat and arrived on the Pacific or Atlantic coast. They settled all across our country, but millions stayed where they had landed, such as in New York City. The arrival of these immigrants transformed the Northeast into an exciting region made up of many different
Chunk it. If you're chunking it, sometimes you have to say it out loud. It's one of our vocabulary words too. Come on, Aaron. Cover up NIC. What sound do those letters make? What do you have there? ETH. What would ETH make? Can somebody help her out? What sound does TH make, Aaron? So if you add E at the beginning, what would that be? It's not long E. Most of the time, E is going to be short E. Can somebody help her out? ETH would make what sound, Zari? F. So, Aaron, cover up NIC. And what does that, ETH, what does that sound like? F. Now cover up ETH. How would NIC sound? Nick. So if we have F and Nick, and we put it together, it's a word that we've heard already this morning. What is it? Ethnic. So read that sentence again. So we're starting back at the arrival of these immigrants. Louder.
The arrival of these immigrants turns from the northeast into an exciting region made up of many different ethnic groups.
Good. So what happened is during this time between 1890 and 1914, a ton of people from all over the world came into the United States. A lot of them moved around the country, but most of them stayed where they were, which meant the northeastern cities got much bigger during that time. They weren't small before, but all of a sudden, here they were. They're getting massive. Okay, thank you, Aaron. Read next. Victoria, loud and slow so that everybody at home can follow along. Make sure you're using your finger to follow along. Everybody should be using their finger to follow along. Go ahead, Victoria, loud and slow so that everybody at home can hear. Remember, if we don't, most of the time, a vowel is going to have the short sound, unless we see something that makes it have the long sound, like the silent E at the end, or, you know, there's those those diphthongs, like EI would always be E, or IE would always be E. But this has none of those. So is it long E or short E? Does it have any of those things with it that make it sound like long E? Like a silent E at the end, or an I, or an A with it. So what is it going to be? Short E. So the but there's an I. There's that I at the end that also doesn't have anything with it that makes it long I. Is there anything that makes it long I? Guys, remember the long vowel sounds say their name. That's not important right now. So this is not long I. So is it going to say its name? No. Cover up LIS. What is that? What does that say? L. Cover up EL. What does that say? List. Not less. That's short E. List. So L. List. What is that? A little louder.
The Ellis Island Museum. Pretend that your class is visiting the Ellis Island Immigration Museum. Before going inside, you are more
little louder, a little slower.
You learn from your guide.
Louder.
You learn from your guide. That is usually took a ship about 3 weeks to cross the Atlantic Ocean. You immigrants enjoyed the voyage because it was long and overcrowded. No wonder passengers rejoiced when they saw the city in the distance.
Zadie, I need to see your finger following along. Keep going, Victoria, loud and slow. A little louder.
The immigrants' first stop, however, was Ellis Island, which stood a mile of the coast beginning
Nope. There's a period and that's not of. A mile.
off the coast. Beginning in 1892, this island welcomed 17 million people to the United States. After closing in 1954, Ellis Island reopened as a museum in 1990.
Very good. Okay, so let's look at this text feature at the bottom of page 203. It shows a primary source. Primary sources can be all different things. Like we said, it says in the text feature, it says primary sources are first person accounts. Remember, first person means the person who experienced it is the one speaking or writing. That's what first person is. So primary sources are first person accounts of historical events or times in letters, journals, or oral histories. So what we're going to be looking at today are oral histories. So what is an oral history? Carla, please read to us about what an oral history is. Go slow, Carla. Remember, if you're thinking the word and it does not make sense in the sentence, don't say it out loud. Spend a little more time with the word. Okay? So what is an oral history? Read to us about oral histories.
This primary source is an oral history. Someone described her
Your fingers should still be following along, everyone. Sorry, Carla, read that sentence again. Someone describes
her experience at a certain time and place. Primary sources are written and the witness' own words.
So, primary sources are written in the witness. A witness is a person who saw it happen in their own words. So right now, I'm going to read this oral history while you follow along. I should see your fingers following along. I should see every single person's finger following along. Scoot your chair in. When I was about 10 years old, I said, I have to go to America. Because my uncles were here already, and it kind of got me that I want to go to America too. I was dreaming about it. I don't see everybody's fingers. I was writing to my uncles. I said, I wish one day I'll be in America. I was dreaming to come to America, and I was dreaming, and my dream came true. When I came here, I was in a different world. It was so peaceful. It was quiet. You were not afraid to go out in the middle of the night. I'm free. I'm just like a bird. You can fly and land on any tree and you're free. And that was an oral history from Helen Cohen from Poland, who arrived in 1920 when she was 20 years old. So this is an example of an oral history. Carla, please mute yourself. Helen Cohen is the one who actually went through this experience, and she is the one writing, or in this case, speaking. An oral history is when somebody has spoken out loud, and what somebody probably did was that they went in and they typed what she said. So, Helen Cohen is the one speaking about her experiences coming to America in 1920. So we know that this is an oral history from a primary source because we see the words I, my, me, I, my, you. A lot of times we'll see you. I'm, you, so on. So when we see a first person, we're going to see a lot of I, me, my, we, us, whatever. That's how we know the person who is writing is also the person who experienced it. Oral histories are real. Sometimes we see first person in fiction. That means it's made up, but it's told from the main character's point of view. The main character is also the narrator. This, a primary source, is a real life event. It is something that we can learn, that we can use to learn about what it was like at that time. So let's look at it. What was the best part of her dream that came true of coming to America? Look at this oral history. What do you think was the best part about her dream of coming to America finally coming true? Zadie.
Because her uncles were there already?
Well, do we really talk much about her uncles other than they were there and then she wrote to them? Once she got to America, does it mention anything about her uncles?
No.
No. So is that the thing that she thinks is most important about being in America?
No.
No. So look at this. For part of this oral history, she is not in America, and then finally during it, she talks about coming to America. What was the most important thing about coming to America, do you think? Smith?
Being free.
Being free. I'm free. I'm just like a bird. You can fly and land on any tree and you're free. What else was so important about coming to America, or did she really, really enjoy about coming to America? Aaron? I can't hear you.
It was so peaceful.
It was peaceful. What else was it, Aaron? It was quiet. It was peaceful and quiet. So now she feels free. It's peaceful. It's quiet. What else does she like best about coming to America? Michaela.
Not being afraid to go outside in the middle of the night.
You were not afraid to go out in the middle of the night. So the best thing about coming to America is how peaceful and quiet it was, how safe it felt, how free she felt. So what do you think? Make an inference about what that means about her life in Poland. If she's so happy that it's peaceful and quiet and safe and she feels free, what does that tell you about how she felt about her life in Poland? Zari?
It was very noisy.
It was noisy. What else?
And she wouldn't be afraid to go out in the middle of the night.
You just said she wouldn't be afraid to go out in the middle of the night. So you're saying that in Poland, she was not afraid to go out in the middle of the night. Do you think that's true? Cullen?
No.
No. She says now she's not afraid to go out in the middle of the night. So what does that mean about Poland, Cullen?
She was afraid to go.
Which means what was it like there? Kingston? Maybe violent, dangerous. Unsafe. Maybe there were bad people out at night all the time. Okay, what else can you think about how her life was in Poland? Victoria? She did not feel free. The government might have been there might have been a lot of rules, a lot of dumb things that she felt like she had to do. Maybe there was a bad leader who was making people feel unsafe or feel like very unfree, not free. Very good. So we can use these oral histories to learn a lot about what life was like at this time in America, but also what life was like where they came from. It's kind of cool because if you go to the Ellis Island Museum, you can listen to a few of the immigrants that came, their oral histories. You can go into the museum and you can listen to them and you can pick from a list of like 20 or 30. And what's really cool is my grandmother is one of them. So you can actually go to Ellis Island and you can pick her oral history to listen to. It's really cool. So if we have time, then while we're working on independent practice, maybe I'll play it because it's online too. If you go to the Ellis Island website, you can find all of the oral histories that they have and you can listen to them at home. If we have time, I'll play it while you're working because that's what I usually do, but we might not have time. Okay, so oral histories are a really important research tool. So when you get older or next semester and you have to write a paper about somebody like a president, you can find oral histories to help you find information, to help you research so that you know what to write. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. That's me. And read next, Kingston, loud and slow because everybody needs to be able to hear so that everybody can be following along with their finger. You still need to be following along with your finger from now on. So I need to see everybody's fingers on their books. I don't see people's fingers on their books ready to follow along. That means they were not listening when I just said that. Scoot your chair in, follow along with your finger.
Arriving at Ellis Island. This was where the boat stopped.
Keep reading loud. Keep reading loud.
Where God experienced. Sometimes 5,000 people a day.
Louder. I didn't even realize that you said the last of the sentence. Because we can't hear it. You have to keep your voice loud. Sometimes, like yell, the whole thing.
Sometimes 5,000 people a day walk through these doors.
Keep going. That's good. Stay that loud.
Guards tied numbers of pegs to the coats. Then they were shown to the registry.
There you go. Read it again, but loud.
To the registry room. Immigrants had to wait in long lines to be examined.
Keep going.
By doctors.
Wait, read that word. You didn't read that word. What does that word sound like? What does examined look like that you know is a word? Is examined a word? Or what does that kind of sound like that you know is a word? First of all, cover up the D. What is that word? Ethan, stop. Cover up the D, and what is that word? Who can help him out? Cover up the D, and what is that word? Smith?
Examine.
Examine. So if you add a D to the end, it becomes what, Kingston? Okay, read that sentence. Start that sentence again, but read it loud.
Immigrants had to wait in long lines to be examined by doctors to make sure they were healthy enough to work.
Go a little slower. Your volume is good, but you need to go a little slower so we can follow along.
Some people were sent back home, but most continued on to an immigration officer who asked them questions. After answering these questions, most immigrants walked down a hallway to a door that said, "Push to
That's a comma, not a period.
New York City, the United States, and hope for new life.
Ooh, what do you notice that we learned the other day in that sentence? Beyond the door were a ferry, New York City, the United States, and hope for a new life. What do you notice in that sentence that we learned about the other day? Zari?
They have the commas and they don't have it on the last one.
So what is that? What did we learn the other day? What lesson was it? Kingston? Items in a series. So you see some items in a series. You see ferry, New York City, the United States, hope for a new life. And so they put commas between each one except after the last one. Okay. So now we know what it was like to arrive at Ellis Island according to this textbook. Well, let's look at this oral history at the top of page 205 to get a first-person account, a primary source. That means it comes straight from a person who saw it. They were there. They lived it. It's an oral history, which means it's in first person. And now we can see exactly how it felt to be at Ellis Island during this time. I will read it. You will follow along with your finger. Every single person, I need to see your finger ready to follow along in this oral history. Some of you that are like, oh, this is so dumb, I can't believe we have to do this, are the ones who are not following along. And you're also the one that I look up and I see you looking not at your book, but somewhere else. Or even if you are looking at the book, your eyes never move, which means you're just staring at one spot. Okay, I will read this one. I never saw such a big building. They mean Ellis Island. That's what those brackets mean. It means this person did not actually say Ellis Island, but we need that information to know what they're talking about. The size of it. I think the size of it got me. According to the houses I left in my town, this was like a whole city in one building. It was an enormous thing to see, I tell you. I almost felt smaller than I am to see that beautiful building. It looked beautiful. My basket, my little basket, that's all I had with me. There was hardly any things. My mother gave me the sora, which is a kind of sandwich, and I had one change of clothes. That's what I brought from Europe. And that oral history is by Celia Adler, who came from Russia and who arrived at Ellis Island in 1914 when she was 12 years old. So this tells you a little more about what it was actually like at Ellis Island. This building was bigger than a lot of these people coming to America had ever seen in their lives. Because think about where they came from. Usually they came from like small towns on farms in the middle of nowhere. Well, then all of a sudden they're seeing this massive building. The first thing they see when they come to America is this massive building on the bottom of page 204. She's saying it's so big, it seemed more like a city to her, based on what she'd seen at home. We can also see that a lot of these immigrants came with hardly anything. Celia, all she had was a basket with a sandwich and one change of clothes. And that's what she brought with her from Russia. So can you imagine having to move from the place you've known your whole life to a new place with only enough to fit in a small little basket, like that size? Can you imagine? But these people were happy to do it. They were excited. So what does that tell you about the places that they left? If they're excited to come to a brand new place after they've lived in the same place their whole lives with only a small basket's worth of things, what does that tell you about the places they left? Smith?
It tells me that the places they left probably weren't as good to them as America is to us.
Good. It means they probably left some pretty scary stuff behind. No money. No food. Maybe there was some scary stuff going on, like violence or something like that. It means even though they're coming to America with nothing, it was worth leaving where they were before. So think about Amada's story. Was Amada very excited to move? What does that tell you about the place she left? Aaron?
It tells me that
Louder.
it tells me it wasn't anything like the place that they wanted to go.
Let's see. Can somebody, let's see, I want to get some more thoughts. I think I know what you're saying, but you got to kind of think about your answer first to make sure that it's clear. What does that tell you about how Amada felt about the place she was leaving? Victoria?
She probably felt like it was going to be really scary.
I'm asking about the place she left, not the place she was going to. Zadie?
She probably thought the place where she lived then probably wasn't the best.
Listen to my question, please. I'm asking about Amada in the story we read yesterday. These oral histories that we've read today, even though they're leaving everything behind that they know and they don't have much, they're still excited to come, which means they left somewhere that was much worse than coming to a brand new place with hardly anything. But Amada did not feel that way. She did not want to move at first. So what does that tell you about Amada's feelings of Mexico where she lived? Zari?
She wasn't happy about leaving.
Okay, what does that tell you that she feels about Mexico? Cullen?
She loved it when she was in Mexico.
She loved it. Did she feel free there probably?
Yes.
Yes. Did she feel safe there?
Yes.
Did she feel like it was quiet and peaceful?
Yes.
So she wasn't happy about moving. She felt like where she lived was perfectly fine. But her parents wanted to move. So do you think that it actually was perfectly fine? Or do you think maybe she just didn't see what her parents saw? Zari?
She just probably didn't see what her parents saw.
Good. Very good. Okay, so we do actually have some independent practice. Let's see, this afternoon you'll have time to work on it along with math after the spelling test. So you'll just have to take it home and work on it. But. Okay, so I'm going to pass it out and then I want you to put it in return to school. Then clear your desks, stand up, and push your chair in.